Take a shot every time they say spleen if you want to die. Welcome back to the Miscellaneous channel where we do miscellaneous things. I'm Zeleny. I typically cover TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things on this channel, so subscribe if that's your vibe. Today I want to talk about Love is Blind UK Season 2 has begun. Cheers to that. These episodes basically encompass the pods part of the experiment. We see a little bit of the honeymoons, but not really enough to know what's up with all of the couples. And as y'all know, like, the pods part of every season is not my favorite. I just feel like everyone's on their best behavior. It's a little bit boring. Like, there's promise for some great romances, there's promise for some good drama, but like nothing really plays out yet. Especially with the UK franchise, I am struggling. There's just something more enigmatic about it. I don't know how to put it. I don't know if it's like cultural differences, me as an American. Maybe their accents just charm me right off the bat. Something about the UK seasons so far feel more wholesome than the American counterpart. Like, there's less mess and less drama. So I feel like people that like the romance, the wholesomeness, they really buy into like the fairy tale of Love is Blind. I feel like they prefer Love is Blind UK seasons. Let me know. For me, I love mess and drama, so the UK seasons have been a little boring for me. Truly, I prefer a balance of drama and mess and romance and like success stories. I think the best seasons, my favorite seasons, all have like the perfect balance between the two, and UK just leans a little on the wholesome side for me. At least I thought it was wholesome, and then season 1, we got to the weddings and the reunion, and suddenly it wasn't so wholesome anymore, and the mess came out. So I think from season 1, I have some trust issues with the UK franchise because everyone was like doing so great the whole season, on their best behavior, saying all the right things, like for the most part. And then we get to the weddings and reunion and everyone turns nasty. Remember, Steven did Sabrina really dirty. There was the whole Ollie and Demi at the wedding situation, and like they were ghosting each other. It was just a little bit like a bait and switch that I didn't really appreciate. Like, I feel like I sat through all of these episodes of like a lot of talk, and then when it came time to the action, it all kind of fell apart. And that's not like my favorite way for Love is Blind to progress. I'm still calibrating my feelings about UK because this is only season 2, and season 1 might have just been how that was, and that doesn't necessarily mean all of the seasons will be like this, but so far season 2 has been very similar, where in the pods it's been a little one note, a little bit like fairy tale, everyone trying to sell the whole fantasy. And now, because of season 1, I don't really believe them as much as I did back then. Like, I love Love is Blind Japan, which is like the gold standard for wholesome Love is Blind. If you haven't seen it before, I made a video and everything. I really liked it because it felt like the wholesome persisted through the whole season. It was like genuine wholesomeness and romance, rather than like season 1 of UK, where it seemed like it was going that direction, and then it, at the wedding and finale and reunion, it ended up the same as kind of the American seasons. So I don't know. I'm not that excited by season 2 so far. There's potential for a lot of things to happen, but not many things have happened yet. Like, we don't even have a clear villain douchey guy like Sam last season. So it's even less dramatic and extreme than season 1 of UK. For sure, we have some potential fuckboys in the building, but in the pods, they're a lot more mild than Sam was. So I'm just gonna go through my general first impressions of all the couples we have so far, even the one that did not make it out of the pods, because they did get a lot of screen time. There are some couples that have a lot more thoughts than others, because there's a couple of couples that have interesting dynamics going on that are interesting to like pick apart and analyze, but a lot of the couples just seem kind of like, they seem all in and might say yes at the altar, who knows? I'll probably spend a lot more time on certain couples than others. And that's the thing I've found so far on UK seasons. Like, they're okay to watch. Like, they feel like a very typical standard Love is Blind season when you're watching it. I don't like not recommend watching, but as a frequent commentator of Love is Blind, it's not as much fun to comment on. They don't give as many topics for interesting discourse as a lot of the American seasons have, at least so far. And there are a few topics that were interesting. And just a disclaimer, we are judging edited personas of these people. We don't know them in real life. They are multifaceted. I will talk about a couple behind the scenes tea type things I've heard that are kind of like crazy already about this season, and one contestant in particular, I still don't know them, and I'm judging the narrative they put forth in this TV show and not the person behind it. Okay, starting with Billy and Ashleigh, this is a couple that doesn't have much to them, but they could very well be a success. They're the like military couple, at least. He used to be in the military and she's really into that for some reason. She wants to like polish his boots, and they fantasize about attending cowboy themed military balls together. My culture is not a costume. Okay. The way they were talking about cowboy stuff was so funny. And they learned to two-step in one of their dates, and they say I love you in that date, I think, which the I love yous were flying this season. I was kind of gagged. I feel like the I love yous aren't flying so quickly in the American version, but I might be having amnesia because I had strep throat all week, and watching these episodes felt like a fever dream. I don't remember if in other seasons they're so quick with the I love yous. Normally they're like, I like you, or if you're in the UK, I fancy you. I love that they say that, it's so funny. Then they go into the I'm falling in love, and then they go into in love, and then engagement. So I feel like in the UK they were kind of blazing through and kind of getting to the I love you pretty quickly. Ashleigh and Billy were our first couple that we saw like going through the whole process, speeding through it. His main storyline is that he was previously married and he's trying to make this second one be, you know, the one for life. And her storyline is that her job is being cabin crew, which seems to mean flight attendant. I feel like that's how we know that profession in the US. And that becomes their main conflict in the pods, that he is worried. He's actually dated someone with that profession before, and he's worried it just didn't work out because the schedules were too difficult. But she's pretty quickly like, oh, I'm willing to change that and get another job or another career to like start a family and all that, which is great and all for them. Like, he was like, okay, then we're gonna continue, and they say their I love yous and get engaged and everything. But like, it's kind of wild of her to be already promising like, I'm gonna change my whole career for you. I wonder what backup she has or what. I don't know if I believe it 100%. Like, do we believe her? I don't know. I mean, to an extent, yeah, probably if her goal is to have a family, she probably wants to switch up the career with a more stable schedule. It's interesting, but that's their main and only conflict. At the reveal, they like each other a lot. In the honeymoons, they're very touchy-feely, keep saying I love you. She doesn't care. He shaves his legs. I don't even know what to say about this couple. They seem very promising. She's trying to help other women that are maybe not progressing as fast as she is. And yeah, I think they're high on my list for potential yeses, unless her career stuff, like we've seen it before in other seasons where someone says something in the pods that's a lot easier said than done, and I feel like this big career change is one of those things. Like when people say, I'll move across the country for you or whatever, and then once they get into real life, they're kind of like, I don't know, actually, you know, I like where I live, I like my job, blah, blah, blah. So that's the only thing I foresee for this couple, unless, you know, they're hiding something that we haven't seen yet. But so far, they're high on my list for saying yes at the altar and working out. Okay, next is Kieran and Megan, and they were in a little bit of a love triangle because Kieran was between two connections, Megan and Sophie. So I'll talk about Sophie in a sec, but Kieran and Megan, they're kind of like my woo couple. Like, they kind of feel like woo, like they're kind of just here for the fun of it. They also seem very solid. They also get to the I love yous. They also progress fast, but they feel a little bit to me like just there for the ride. And something about Kieran, I think it's just his look. He looks kind of like a fuckboy to me. I don't know, he's just like tan and his hair is all done. It might just be that he's European, and that's a factor I have to think about when I watch European seasons, because European people are way more stylish than American people, so maybe it's just that, but I don't know, I don't fully trust Kieran yet. And then Megan, on her side, I feel like she is the ultimate woo girl, kind of just there for a good time. Like, she's really into him, he's really into her, but it just kind of feels like we're doing it for the plot, for the fun of it. I guess what gives me fuckboy about him too was that one comment. I have to read into the comments like really deeply for this season, because British people are good at hiding under their charm or something, but he was like saying he's a gaming entrepreneur and he says he's a nerd, but don't worry, he doesn't look like a nerd. And it kind of feels like, okay, like he's trying to say he's good looking. And then for Megan, she is a dancer and fitness instructor. We had a lot of fitness instructor people on this season. I think maybe because only fitness instructors can meet the looks qualifications that producers have, because this cast is very beautiful and gorgeous, and I'm just like, maybe only a fitness instructor can have abs or hot bods to this degree, to be honest. Like, I feel like half of them are fitness instructors of some kind. But apparently she used to work on a cruise, and I was like, I watched the Poop Cruise documentary recently, also on Netflix, shout out, and that one lady from the Poop Cruise exposed what all the crews are doing. Cruise. You get it. They're fucking.
There's lots of sex on the cruise ship. Damn, so much sex you don't want to know.
I feel like Billy worrying about cabin crew and that job, it should have been this guy worrying about cruise crew instead. I mean, not really, because it is in her past now. So yeah, a lot of the journey here was Kieran between Megan and Sophie, and Megan progresses very standard Love is Blind, like they get vulnerable with each other, talk about families, they bond over their family splitting up and things. He gives her a thoughtful gift towards the end, and they get into the I love yous and get engaged, and very standard progress. But he did have this other connection with Sophie, which was very different in that it started off really strong. The sparks were flying. They had good banter, but Sophie was very reserved or closed off and guarded. Sophie's a polarizing character this season, one of the few in the pods really, because she's a bit of a diva, and she felt a little bit superficial, like when he asked her, you know, what would you want from me, or something random like that, she was like, well, some designer bags would be good, and things like that. So she was giving a bit superficial vibe. She reminded me in the pods of like Irina and Micah and those types of girls that do get vulnerable at a certain point in the pods, and you can kind of see maybe where their hard exterior comes from, but at the same time it feels like they default to maybe a bit of a mean girl or diva attitude. Like, there's an element to Sophie that's like, you go girl, stand up for yourself, don't let yourself be second best to anyone, and that's great and all, but her attitude was leaning more into like arrogant and cocky rather than confident. And it kind of feels like in the real world she gets by really well on her looks and kind of relies on her looks to kind of have men wrapped around her finger, which is what she seems to want. So she breaks up with Kieran after she sees that he gives Megan like a very meaningful gift from Japan, and Megan comes in and is kind of like bragging about the gift or like so excited about it, and Sophie's very hurt by that, thinks it's super disrespectful, thinks it's rude, and tells him all of this to his face, and it's like, we're done, I'm not second best to anybody. And that's fine, that's her right to do, to break that off, like, okay, sure. I just have a feeling if Kieran had acted exactly how she wanted and they would have gotten engaged, it might have ended up in like a Zach and Irina situation where she's like nitpicking everything about him immediately and put off by him. And I understand like people have guards up, and we heard about like her mom kind of abandoned her and she has issues with that. So, you know, there's humanization of someone like this, but I just got that vibe that She's very, very picky with men, and I don't think anyone on this show was going to meet her standards. And she mentioned she might have been self-sabotaging, and yeah, I think that's the case. And that's kind of what happened. Even though Kieran was kind of dragging these two connections along, but I do feel like he started so strong with Sophie. He was trying to give her all these chances to like open up, be vulnerable, and she just wasn't getting there. And it's kind of also like, if you're such a guarded person and can't really open up, is this really the best show for you? That's another question I have for Sophie. I appreciated at least she was like something interesting in the pods of like close to maybe a villain energy, even though it was pretty mild compared to things we've seen in the past. And I'm just speculating about how she would be in an engagement situation, but we don't know because we didn't get to see it. She didn't make it out of the pods. She broke up with him. And so after that, Kieran tells Megan like, I'm all in on you. And Megan's like, yay, me too. And it's like, girl, he had no other choice. He got broken up with. But whatever. In the proposal, Megan actually writes him a poem, and they get engaged at the reveal. They're both very into each other physically. They're both very conventionally attractive. So honestly, they kind of look like the avatars in the mobile app games. Like, that's how perfectly Love is Blind contestant-y they all looked. Something interesting about this couple, I forgot. He said I love you to her during the proposal and was like, you don't have to say it back. And she is waiting to reciprocate the I love you. I don't think she said it yet. I might have missed it. I had strep throat, y'all. I had a fever. But in their honeymoon, they seem like they have sexual tension. They're both very into each other. So I just get the vibe they're more here for a good time. And they might say no at the altar. They might just like go along and have a good time. They really haven't given me much to go off of because they were excited at the reveal, excited in the honeymoons. They're kind of doing great so far. Okay, next is Sarover and Kal. And this is one of the couples with a little more discourse and interesting dynamics to talk about. I feel like Kal is very polarizing already from the reactions I've seen. I want to believe in this couple, kind of. I really enjoyed their banter in the pods. I like how they're bridging this cultural divide between Indian culture and Pakistani culture. I like that he was wearing traditional attire for the reveal. They exchange I love yous and everything, so they're progressing at like a typical rate for this. I like that he calls her princess. I think that was cute. But in the honeymoons, this couple really tested me, and there was this moment that is kind of like the red flag we're all wondering. For me, it's kind of strike one for Kal, and I'm waiting to see if there's going to be more strikes, but we haven't seen it yet. He has a very hard to read face, very like kind of blank. And I love her. She was so vulnerable in the pods and talked about her family and how they would pressure her to like date Indian men, and then eventually they even apologized to her and told her it's okay to live her life how she wants, and now that her family is a lot more mixed up, she just has a really good energy. So I think that's why also a lot of fans are very protective of her and feeling that protective energy. I also feel people are having some PTSD from Shake and Deepti, who kind of paralleled some of these dynamics, though to a much more extreme degree so far that we can see. So the red flag came about in the honeymoons where they were talking about their typical types, and he mentions his type is blonde, blue-eyed, white women. And he kind of says like, oh, I'm glad the experiment got me out of my comfort zone. Also, they did extensively talk about their background in the pod, so it wasn't like a shock when he saw her and she was Indian. The parallels feel closer to me to like Cole and Zainab, honestly. I feel like they had an almost identical situation in the honeymoons, rather than Shake and Deepti, who Shake was like a douchebag the whole time in the pods, and I think that was a lot more obvious. But for the Cole and Zainab situation, it was a lot more nuanced, and I feel like in the end, fans see her as more of the villain than they see Cole. I don't know which way this situation is going to go, but those are the two parallels in the past that I think people are thinking about. Kal mentions this comment, and it's just like, I don't know. I guess it's normal to talk about like, oh, in the past, my past relationships have been white women or something, like, I guess. But I'm like, it's just something that did not need to be said at all. Like, what is the purpose? What is the point? Does that help? I mean, I guess his point was to say, I'm glad the experiment got me out of my comfort zone, but it just does more harm than good to her to tell her that, and now she has to think about and just like feel that insecurity that wasn't there or didn't need to be there, especially when they talked so much about their backgrounds in the pods that, like, I'm surprised he didn't just say it way back then at the very beginning, if like when they were first talking about their backgrounds, because I think she mentioned in the pods at some point, like, oh, she's mostly dated Indian men. I mean, she might have said it only in confessionals, and I don't remember if she said it to him or if she said that to him at the honeymoons, but whatever. I just think it's a comment that didn't need to be said, and someone like of his age should know that it's nuanced and complicated, and like colorism is a huge thing. You would assume he faced some discrimination in his own life and things, so like you would think he would just have the awareness. I'm like, am I asking too much of a man? But no, like we need to demand better. So this is his like strike, it feels like. But once they meet all the other couples, Sarover is feeling like a little worried about him meeting Ashleigh, meeting Bardha, who are, you know, the definition of his type, blonde, blue-eyed ladies. When they meet everybody, he hasn't done anything that we've seen that's like flirtatious to them or made a comment like they're beautiful or things like that. So we haven't seen that yet. We might see it in the future. I don't know. And that would be like strike 2 for me. But it's sad that it made Sarover just kind of overthink things. And she doesn't seem as insecure as like a Zainab seemed back in that season. So I think Sarover's not at that level of like freaking out yet. But it's still like annoying that it's on her mind. She's thinking about it. She's talking through it with Ashleigh from a comment that just did not need to be said. Another thing with Kal, which is definitely unrelated to his relationship, is that once they hang out with everybody, he's not there to flirt with the blonde ladies. He is there to confront Katisha about doing his friend dirty in the pods and like switching up on him last minute. This is another polarizing decision. Like, why is Kal going so hard after Katisha, involving himself in another relationship that is not really his business? I think because I wanted Katisha to be called out by somebody, because we'll get to her, but her situation was like, I wanted someone to call her out, so Kal took it upon himself to be the one. It's a little weird for him to feel so passionate, but I think he was really close with Demola, and Demola was a really nice guy, so there's kind of an element of like Kal is sticking up for his friend that was done dirty. I'm interested to see how y'all feel about that situation, but I don't know. I wanted to see Katisha called out, and so I didn't care who did it. I'm waiting to see more on Kal. I'm seeing a lot of people quick to judge, and I get it. I think I'm also very tentative and cautious here, but I'm hoping maybe this is the strike and he gets better. Famous last words on Love is Blind, it seems like. In the teaser, it does look like him and Sarover make it to the altar at least, which is something. Like, a lot of times couples break up that are really rocky before that. And he's like ripping a paper, and they're trying to make it look bad, but it kind of looks like people are smiling. So I don't know. I think it might be a misleading thing for the teaser that's like dramatic, and maybe they'll say yes. I don't even know. Maybe he'll say yes and she'll say no. Okay, next is another couple that did not even make it out of the pods, but got a lot of screen time, and is kind of like the biggest discourse of the season so far, unfortunately, because I am already tired of hearing the word spleen. Please, shut up about the spleen. Shut up about the spleen. Can he even point to where his spleen is in his body? Can he even describe what the spleen does, what its job is in the human body, because I couldn't point to it. I feel like he's just trying to coin something random to like make a t-shirt out of. So I'm talking about Patrick and Aanu. I didn't even say their names. And Patrick has been kind of like a main character of these episodes, in a bad way, honestly, in a way of like, man, this guy. And Aanu is just kind of like the person he had a strong connection with that dodged a bullet in the end. Patrick is one of these like spiritual, vibey, human design life coach types. And immediately when I hear those words put together, I think grifter, I think scammer, and that immediately makes me question his intentions of being on a show, because people like this love to promote themselves and sell these vague, wishy-washy coaching services as just a way to make a lot of money out of snake oil. It just makes me think of snake oil salesmen, all the things. It even makes me think, you know, in the culty direction, in the MLM direction. As soon as he started talking about that, I was like, oh God, here we go. And at first he seemed like a nice guy. He's a very cute guy. He always looks like he's about to burst out laughing. I don't know. That was kind of like off-putting and warm at the same time. I don't know, but the life coach stuff, immediately I was like, oh no, this is this is not good. He did this whole thing about like he follows his spleen instead of his gut. And the very first time he said it, I was like, oh, that's a funny joke. It's like unexpected, like people follow their gut. He's like, I follow my spleen. I thought it was gonna be like a one-time joke, but then he says it every fucking 5 seconds for every decision he makes. In the end, he breaks up with Aanu by saying, I have to trust my spleen. And it was just freaking annoying. It was the title of the episode. It was his reasoning for everything. I was just so annoyed by him by the end of his journey. And you know the tea from Storytime with Ricky on TikTok. If you're not following Storytime with Ricky on TikTok, you're only getting half the story, because she breaks a lot of the tea that goes on like outside in the real world, and like information that contestants have kept secret and stuff. And it sounds like the tea on Patrick is that he had a baby on the way while he was in the pods. Gaggy. He did not tell anyone about this. Obviously, it was not part of his narrative. So I felt bad for Aanu. At first, they were really hitting it off. They had similar backgrounds and things. But then he asked her to sing for him, because Aanu is a singer, specifically at weddings, which is like a cute profession for a Love is Blind contestant. It feels very like, when's it going to be my turn? Now it's my turn. Anyway, so I feel bad Aanu kind of got the short end of the stick with who she connected with, but he asked her to sing, and she was just kind of like, I don't feel comfortable doing that right now. And then he was turned off by that and icked out. And he was also icked out about her like caring about her mom's opinion about her partner, which is a very normal thing. He was like, it's so low vibrational to care about what other people think. And it's like, yes, when you're caring about what brandos think, sure, but when someone very close to you knows you very well and has your best interest at heart, you probably care about their opinion on things, because they can maybe see things that you can't. And again, this also feels kind of culty to me, of him like emphasizing so much he wants a partner that doesn't care what anyone thinks. It's like, because he knows his partner's close friends and family are gonna be like, this guy is selling bullshit. So that also felt like a red flag related to this like grifter snake oil mess, that he doesn't want his partner to listen to her close friends and family about their opinions on him. I think that said a lot. So as their dates go on, they feel less and less aligned, and he feels the energy is so off. His spleen is silent. Can he be silent about the spleen, please? So they kind of try to get back on track, and she's kind of eating sushi and he's not into it. The energy is off. And the poor girl, she's just confused. Poor Aanu is like, I think we had something. I don't know. She doesn't know, and she even writes him a song and she's gonna sing it for him, but then he's like, nope, no singing. We are breaking up before you even sing a note. It's probably for the best for him to not change his mind. And I was glad he didn't change his mind, because Aanu did not need to have more of her time wasted by this man. And at least he walked away from the show instead of forcing it with Aanu and proposing and doing the motions to get more screen time. Like, at least he called it when he did. I was glad, because he could have gone either way. And we'll see them later, it looks like. We'll see them meet up at, pod squad stuff. Usually nothing comes of that, so I'm not worried. Hopefully his spleen stays silent. So next couple is Katisha and Javen, and Demola was part of this love triangle thing. Katisha was between two connections. And Katisha, oh my god, she's another one that gave some interesting discourse because she made the wrong decision. You made the wrong decision. She went for the indifferent fuckboy instead of the nice guy. And I hate this because it fuels the propaganda that the girls hate the nice guys. And it's like, I hate guys that say that because it's usually not a nice guy deep down that says those things. But Demola was an actual pretty nice guy. He was a bit nerdy. He was a financial analyst, but very charming, nerdy. And he was romancing Katisha pretty hard. He really liked her. They had good conversations. He gave her gifts. He wrote her a poem at one point. And after a few of these moments, Katisha started kind of seemed like she was getting the ick from him, kind of was struggling with this amount of adoration, which is so sad because she talked about she had been single for 6 years, she had a cheating ex, and it's just sad that she sees, just a guy putting in effort as too much or bad, like a bad thing. It was tragic, and Javen was the exact opposite. He was the cool guy. He was the closest we got to like a fuckboy type in the pods. He introduced himself saying like, I'm comfortable dating multiple women, or I'm a charmer, I'm really good at dating multiple women. And I'm just like, if you're coming in saying you're good at dating multiple women, I'm automatically not on your side and against you. I was so mad when she picked him in the end. Oh god, just kind of bragging about that feels very icky and feels like a red flag. And he also talks about he's so competitive, and he keeps calling the experience a game. He keeps saying, the game, this is how you play the game. And it's clear that he does not respect women. To me, it feels like romancing Katisha is just about winning over another guy, winning a prize, proving that he can get a girl without even looks involved. Like, he's just very much a textbook fuckboy to me. Like with Katisha, he's holding back a lot. He's kind of asking sexual questions that she is kind of put off by at first. She should have kept with that instinct, but she didn't. She tries to get him to put in a little more effort by telling him like, hey, I have another connection, and he's doing all these grand gestures, and he's very like, whatever, do whatever you want. Very playing the indifferent, cool, I don't give a fuck attitude. And back in the boys' quarters, he's saying these grand gestures, it's love bombing. He calls it love bombing. And I think that's an interesting conversation because love bombing is a bit of a buzzword in the dating world these days, and like gaslighting, like one of these buzzwords, right? And love bombing exists, but I feel like in Love is Blind terms, love bombing does not exist. I would say every engaged couple love bombed because they in a week went from strangers to saying I love you to getting engaged. Like, I feel like the Love is Blind pod structure calls for love bombing, and I think the way you show interest and show that you care about somebody is giving gifts and doing nice things, since you don't have the physical connection to explore or anything, or like the outside world to like go to a restaurant, go on a date, normal stuff. The gifts and writing a poem and that kind of thing is what you have to romance somebody. So I don't think Demola was love bombing. Maybe in the real world, it'd be a different story. I mean, yeah, doing all this in like the span of a few days would be love bombing, but that applies to every couple. So no, I think Javen was just trying to make fun of Demola's efforts and feel like a sense of ego and pride that he doesn't have to rely on those things. He's like playing the cool boy card and it's working. It's so tough because it worked. I hate that it worked. I hate that it worked. And Katisha, why did you do this? Katisha goes in to break up with Javen, and he like got her this like very basic flower bouquet for that date as just like a thing to show that he put in some effort. And she tells him like, hey, my other connection is just stronger. And he's very like, whatever, I'll be all right. And she's into it. They just both stay in the room, and he starts saying a few things to like hook her in, like start saying some of the right things, like we do have a strong connection, like all the things she had been wanting this whole time and asking of him at the very last second, of course, to like win her over. He says those things and she can't help herself and falls for it and backtracks on the breakup completely. It sucks too because it puts Javen in this position of like, well, now she has to apologize to me because she was trying to break up with me, and I know that, and she was saying her other connection was stronger, so he kept saying like, at this point she needs to propose to me to like make it up to him. And it's just so I cringe. I just hate, I think we all hate that Katisha fell right into the trap, and it's on her too for like going for the bad boy. It's a very classic story that I don't like when it's perpetuated in real life. She had promised Demola she was going to break up with Javen, then just comes back to Demola and is like, actually, my other connection is stronger. And Demola's like, what the hell? Like, what happened? And it's a big switch up right at the very end. And she gets engaged to Javen. And yeah, in the boys' quarters, he's just saying like, women, right? They don't know what they want about the switch up. And it's just like, like he does not respect women as human beings. He treats them like objects or prizes to win in a game. This is definitely the rockiest couple to me. Their reveal is pretty awkward. It's the most awkward. They keep saying like, oh, this is so surreal, I can't believe this. And usually those couples are the ones that are shakier. And I think deep down she knows she made the wrong decision. She keeps trying to say she made the right decision, but it's giving she's trying to convince herself and not so much that's the truth. I think there is some physical connection there. They make out at the end. I think they're both fine with exploring that, but it's not just about that. Like they feel like they could have a fine time going on a few dates, but they don't feel like marriage material. Especially he doesn't feel like marriage material for her, and I don't think it's marriage material because she is choosing the guy that treated her like shit the whole time. So she was very frustrating. Clearly there's some toxic patterns there on her end that, I don't know, she needs to go to therapy, something. She chose literally the most toxic guy we saw in the whole pods. And I just hate when this happens. And the honeymoon, they're already very shaky. She's feeling insecure. She hasn't said I love you yet. She's talking to the other couples that are all like lovey-dovey. And she's just kind of like, we're progressing slowly. And it's like, no, girl, like, he might be one night stand or a few dates material, but I think she's seeing he's not husband material at this point. And she's not either. And he blatantly says, like, I don't feel like she's my fiance. It feels like she's my girlfriend, kind of. It just feels way more casual in general. And I think once the shininess of winning the prize over Demola wears off, Javen is like gonna quickly become not a great partner to her and probably distance himself, and she is gonna be like all conflicted or feel like shit because she's with someone that doesn't, put in any effort. I don't know. I don't even see them going to the altar. I don't think they were in the teaser, and I don't expect them to be. They give like they're gonna break up first week in the real world. Tragic. Finally, our last couple is Jed and Bardha, and there's not much to say here. This is our Sunday roast couple because all they talk about is how they want to go to Sunday roast together. What they're gonna do every other day, I don't know, but they both seem very traditional. She's from Kosovo, I think, and her family immigrated to the UK, and he's half Lebanese. They just seem very traditional, gender role type. They're both very all in very quickly with each other. Again, they're saying the I love yous. They don't have a love triangle. It all felt very standard. They're kind of like the last couple we get introduced to. They're kind of the forgotten couple. They have probably the least screen time. There's always one of those couples. A lot of times they end up breaking up for a random reason in the real world. But we'll see with them. They could also very much be a boring couple that says yes at the end. I don't know. It kind of seemed like there were some conflicts in the teaser, but you can't really trust those. They could go either way. I don't really know with this couple. There's not much to them. Aside from she's giving BB Rex a tease. And I think BB Rexa made a song for this season. So they should do a duet at the reunion. So that's Love is Blind UK season 2 so far. This was the pod phase of the season and it was not that exciting to me. I'm sorry, I know, I just don't love pods. I thought they would release like 6 episodes like they've been doing lately, but they didn't. So there's a lot of totally different potential here for success, for disaster, for boringness. Like, I really don't know where this is going, but I will be seated and tuned in next week for the next batch of episodes, which will be the most interesting for sure. They always are. I love when they get to the real world and they start seeing they have nothing in common and they will never work, or the opposite. They find out they're really like living together, love each other, and they're great. Let me know what you think so far of Love is Blind UK season 2, and what are your predictions for the upcoming episodes, assuming you're watching this before they come out. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel if you enjoyed. I put out new videos whenever I feel like it about TV, pop culture, internet trends, and other miscellaneous things. And you can follow me at Miscellaneous to keep up with me, or just turn on the bell notification here on YouTube. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye!